With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown.
And I am Yolana Weeks.
Our top stories. St. Kitts and Nevis observes Environment Month with renewed commitment to sustainability.
St. Kitts Nevis strengthens ties with Africa through the Afro-Caribbean Cultural Exchange Initiative.
Lithium-ion battery explosion at ECCB campus contained, investigation underway. Let the rhythm flow, a new era for telecom in St. Kitts and Nevis. Guyana reconsidering hiring a plan for Cuban health workers. CDB president unveils bold plan to streamline operations and strengthen regional resilience. Internationally, Israeli strikes have made war inevitable. Now, the details. June marks Environment Month in St. Kitts and Nevis, a time when the Department of Environment spearheads activities under the theme Empowering Change for a Sustainable Future. This year's celebration comes at a critical juncture as the Federation embraces crucial environmental legislation and encourages community engagement toward lasting ecological protection. Senior Environment Officer Dr. Elric Francis and Environment Officer Shavern Gardner in a recent episode of In Focus outlined both the significance of this environmental observance and practical steps citizens can take to safeguard the island's natural resources. Their insights emphasized the pressing need to address key challenges such as illegal dumping and sand mining while nurturing community awareness and behavioral change. In introducing one of the month's hallmark activities, Gardner described a creative staff event.
The Department of Environment, we have an annual month of activity that we host every year. And what we saw was one of the activities we would have had during the month Environment Day. We're celebrating Environment Day on the 5th of June. And what we had was a competition, a modeling competition, where we were to express some environmental issues and the way we can combat it through a fashion show.
This staff-driven fashion showcase highlighted environmental themes including recycling and the reduction of single-use plastics, reinforcing the department's message with youthful energy and creativity. Speaking to the ongoing necessity for World Environment Day and the accompanying Environment Month activities,
I would say World Environment Day, it was initially put in place so that we could observe that day and reflect on our environment, our environmental issues, and basically to raise awareness. And awareness, even though there have been increase in environmental awareness, public awareness fades without consistency. So I think that the day is necessary to also reinforce public awareness and to build momentum, to keep up momentum. They can also be used to get persons or citizens involved. They can also be used for, say, the government to push green initiative.
He stressed the importance of sustained efforts to cultivate behavioral change over time, underscoring the crucial role Environment Month plays in this ongoing process. Dr. Francis elaborated on the ethos behind this year's theme.
What people need to understand, when you hear the word environment, you need to know that the environment is everything around us. And so when you look at your environment, you have to ask yourself, am I satisfied with how it looks, or can it be improved? And so you have to always think about improving. You have to always think about making things better.
He linked this perspective to recent policy shifts, particularly the new legislation aimed at curbing single-use plastic pollution, explaining the importance of embracing change to protect the island's ecosystems.
One way to fix that is to change from single-use plastic to reusables. And that is how that theme was chosen.
On June 5th, to mark World Environment Day, the department partnered with the Man and the Biosphere Reserve, MAB, an NGO supported by UNESCO, for the Green Valley Environment Day Expo in the Keon area. Gardner described the event as pivotal for public education around the single-use plastic ban.
We came together and put on, like you said, a sensitization, our expo, where we went into the Keon area, and we did some sensitization on the plastic ban. And during this sensitization, we basically inform persons, updated persons on the plastic ban, inform them on the necessities, give them the details. We make sure that they are complying with the plastic bans. We listen to any issues that they might have had, so we can find ways to resolve it if it's in our capacity.
The initiative aimed to prepare the community for Phase 2 of the Plastic Reduction Plan, which involves banning styrofoam food containers, egg crates, and plastic straws by the end of July. Dr. Francis added that these community engagements not only spread awareness, but also gathered valuable feedback to refine the approach.
What we found during these stakeholder consultations is that a lot of people are actually positive, and they for most of the items, the only item we have any pushback on was the plastic straws. But for the most part, most people, they have no issues with the t-shirt bag. They have no issues with the styrofoam crate.
He further highlighted the environmental necessity driving the ban.
This is a small island state. This is a small country. And we know that refuge, the average household produces kilograms and kilograms of refuge daily. And so where is all of this going to go if we are not thinking and acting and behaving sustainably?
Both officers underscored the health implications of plastic pollution during the broadcast.
One of the benefits deals with health benefit. And as time goes by, we with more research, we keep finding, yes, they don't break down the plastic. It simply breaks down into a smaller particle, which we probably don't have the capacity to see right now.
Plastic breaks down into microscopic particles that are found everywhere, posing future health risks to the Federation. Dr. Francis further cautioned about the everyday misuse of plastic.
Plastic contains hormonal disruptors. And so when you have a lot of people, they're saying, well, why is there so much cancers going on? And they don't understand that it could be that the food, just the container that you're consuming your food in, a lot of it is not made for consumption. Matter of fact, if you look at the packaging, a lot of people don't read the packaging, read the bottom of the package where it says, do not microwave. Because there's a reason why they tell you do not microwave, and it's not just for the integrity of the container. It's because the chemicals will leach out of the plastic into your food. You ingest that food, and now it messes up your insides.
The peer emphasized the need for public education on safely using plastics, with particular warnings against heating styrofoam containers in microwaves. Beyond awareness and legislation, the Department of Environment has planned other significant activities this month to engage the public and foster a direct connection with nature. Gardner detailed 2 events hosted by the Forest Ranger Unit, a Ranger Restoration Day on June 19th and a Forest Dash on June 25th. These events aim to highlight forest conservation efforts and attract participants who are physically active and environmentally conscious. The Restoration Day focuses on tree planting in areas affected by environmental stresses, while the Forest Dash is a competitive run through military trails to promote awareness of biodiversity protection and sustainable forest management. Prizes promoting sustainability will encourage participation in this highly anticipated event. Addressing the need for reforestation, Dr. Francis explained.
That situation is multifaceted. For example, we have just the natural climate that would damage the trees. We have natural disasters that will damage the trees. And unfortunately, we also have the human agents that would destroy the trees.
He highlighted the biological importance of forests in providing oxygen and maintaining biodiversity, noting concerns over the visible loss of forest cover seen in satellite imagery and the implications this has for national and international environmental commitments. The department's efforts also extend to educating communities beyond the more urban Bastyr area.
We have community walkthrough sensitizations. And so we go out into the community in several communities, because it's not just Bastyr where people are. So you have to go out where people work, you have to go out where people live, and you have to engage the public. and to get their feedback.
This grassroots approach identifies misconceptions about plastic use and informs the public about safer practices, such as avoiding the use of microwavable plastic containers. As Environment Month 2025 unfolds, the Department of Environment demonstrates a robust commitment to integrating community participation, education, legislation, and conservation activities into a coordinated effort to make St. Kitts and Nevis a truly sustainable island state where empowered citizens actively contribute to safeguarding their environment for present and future generations. The full schedule of Environment Month activities is available online, inviting all residents and stakeholders to join in advancing this urgent and empowering environmental agenda.
A delegation from Nigeria arrived at the Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw International Airport on June 12, 2025, signaling the Federation's dedication to creating strong international diplomatic ties with Africa. It was also the first time that Airpeace 777-300 touched down in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, a defining moment in the nation's history. The arrival of the Nigerians formed a part of the Afro-Caribbean Cultural Exchange Initiative, coming off the heels of the Aquarian Consult Afro-Caribbean Investment Summit 2025 in Nigeria. There, two critical memoranda of understanding were signed to advance cooperation in the creative economy and agricultural industries. Meanwhile, the African delegates were welcomed with familiar cultural presentations, including African drumming and dancing, symbolizing the Federation's rich cultural heritage and continued connection to the motherland. Mr. Samal Duggins, Minister responsible for the Ministries of Agriculture, Sports and the Creative Economy, ETAL, was present at the airport to greet members of the delegation. He said this moment marks the beginning of something historic, a bold cultural, economic and diplomatic bridge between Africa and the Caribbean. On the roster of events is an international friendly match between Nigeria and St. Kitts and Nevis, an agriculture and micro, small and medium enterprises MSME technical business workshop, cultural workshops, and a business expo. The highly anticipated arrival of the Nigerian delegation was slated for May 30, but was postponed due to a technical issue with the aircraft. However, the parties were adamant in ensuring that the engagement kicked off at the soonest possible time. The Afro-Caribbean Exchange events schedule includes opening ceremony and business expo at Carambola Sunset Deck from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. on June 13. Also on June 13, an international football friendly match at the Verchilds playing field from 7:30 p.m. until. There are 3 events scheduled for June 14. An Agri-Small Business Workshop at the Agri-Large Conference Room La Grite from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. An Afro-Caribbean Exchange Expo at Sugar Apple Wilkins Street, Fort Lands from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. and cultural workshops at Victoria Road Community Center from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. A youth exchange will be held on June 15 at the Ministers' Conference Room from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. and on June 16, cultural workshops, Victoria Road Community Center from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m.
A fire broke out at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank ECCB headquarters in St. Kitts on the evening of June 11, 2025, resulting from a lithium-ion battery explosion in one of the battery storage plants associated with the bank's solar energy system. The ECCB campus houses a functional solar plant vital to the institution's commitment to renewable energy and carbon reduction under its Greening the Campus initiative. The battery storage system, consisting of 170 ion batteries, plays a crucial role in storing excess solar power generated by the bank's 1 megawatt solar canopy array, mainly supplying electricity to the Sir K. Dwight Venner building during nighttime hours. The bank has confirmed that there were no injuries or harm caused to any staff members during the incident. Furthermore, the fire did not extend to the secondary battery storage container or cause any structural damage to other buildings on the campus. Operations at the ECCB remain uninterrupted despite the event, demonstrating resilience and effective crisis management. As a precautionary measure following the fire, ECCB staff were advised to work remotely for 2 days to ensure safety and allow thorough assessment of the site. The affected battery storage system has been taken offline pending full investigation. ELM Field Site, the manufacturer of the battery storage system is scheduled to visit the ECCB on June 13, 2025, to conduct a detailed assessment and determine the factors that contributed to the explosion. Their findings will be critical in understanding the circumstances and preventing similar instances in the future. The ECCB's solar project, completed in 2023, is a flagship demonstration of its commitment to environmental stewardship and climate action. The solar voltaic PV system has a capacity of 1 megawatt alternating current AC, supplemented by a battery storage capacity of 3.3 megawatt hours, allowing the institution to efficiently manage energy use and reduce dependence on conventional electricity sources. Since its inception, the solar plant has made significant environmental and economic contributions, reducing carbon emissions by over 3,440,000 pounds of CO2 and saving the bank approximately $1.8 million annually in avoided energy costs. This initiative places the ECCB at the forefront of green energy adoption within the Eastern Caribbean region. The incident serves as a reminder of both the promise and the challenges inherent in transitioning to renewable energy technologies. While solar and battery innovations offer remarkable benefits towards sustainability, their safe and reliable operations requires meticulous management and continuous monitoring. On June 12, 2025, Flow officially launched its rebranding initiative dubbed Let the Rhythm Flow, marking a significant milestone in the telecommunications landscape in the Federation. Hosted by Flow St. Kitts and Nevis, the ceremony heralded a new chapter that is vibrant, bold, and deeply entwined with the culture and people of the Twin Island nation. Lorraine Mitchell, the country manager for Flow, addressed the gathering with a message of gratitude, commitment, and renewed energy for the future. Standing before customers, partners, and media representatives, Mitchell emphasized that the event was more than a typical rebranding campaign.
I'm happy to stand before you to celebrate not just a brand, not just a campaign, but a new era for Flow St. Kitts and Nevis. This evening, we officially say, welcome to the next chapter of Flow. This evening is the start of something bold, something vibrant, and something deeply rooted in the culture of our people throughout the Federation. Tonight, we amplify.
She said, acknowledging the crucial role of the community in the company's journey. Mitchell took time to reflect on Flow's transition under the umbrella of its parent company, Liberty Latin America, now operating as Liberty Caribbean. This realignment gives Flow access to expanded resources and scale, enabling faster innovation and deeper investment right in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Let me be clear. Here in the Federation, one thing is unchanged. Flow, the brand that you've grown to know and love, is still Flow, but we now just amplify. Now with a new rhythm, a louder beat, and a renewed promise. Same dedicated team, same passion, and our dedication and commitment to excellence remain.
In line with this commitment, Flow has launched the first 100% dedicated fiber-fast service across every home and business in the Federation, providing minimum speeds of 300 megabytes per second, with options of up to 1 gigabyte for customers who desire even faster connections.
We are proud to say that we have made the Federation a GigaNet network nation where customers can now receive synchronous speeds of up to 1 gig if they choose.
Mitchell further underscored Flow's long-standing connection with its community beyond infrastructure upgrades.
And beyond our service, it means deeper community investment. One, through continuation of our scholarship program. Despite challenging economic times, we have maintained our scholarship program where over 350 students would have received full scholarships awards from Flow every year for their entire secondary and tertiary education. This program has been in existence for almost 40 years. We put our money where our loyalty and our mouth is.
She said, noting Flow's investment of over $1.5 million in education, fueling the success of many alumni now serving as doctors, nurses, principals, CEOs, and permanent secretaries. Other community-focused efforts include digital inclusion initiatives to bridge the digital divide across every home in St. Kitts and Nevis, as well as ongoing support for the people and businesses that underpin the Federation's thriving economy. Adding to the momentum, Eunice George, Flow's B2B manager for St. Kitts, offered insight into Flow's evolving role as a trusted partner for businesses and governments within the region. With over 150 years of heritage in the Caribbean telecommunications industry, Flow has been foundational in connecting islands to the broader world and building resilient infrastructure through challenges, from devastating hurricanes to the digital revolution.
For over 150 years, we've been embedded in this region to work with communities and businesses, to be the partners, trusted consultants in business development and community. We were the first to connect islands in the Caribbean to the outside world. We've built and maintained the infrastructure that connects people, businesses, and nations.
She described Liberty Business as stepping confidently into the era of digital transformation with an extensive and reliable network spanning the Caribbean, Latin America, and beyond, providing the backbone needed for SMEs, regional enterprises, and government entities to thrive. George emphasized their movement beyond mere connectivity, integrating holistic IT solutions into their offerings.
As we evolve, we have moved beyond connectivity. We are seamlessly integrating IT solutions into our offerings, already assisting businesses with personalized services, tailored IT services, Tier 1 connectivity, 24/7 monitoring, data center access, expanding smart solutions, and cybersecurity solutions.
The commitment to delivering reliable infrastructure paired with a dedicated support team resonates deeply with the company's pledge to support economic growth and social progress.
Our commitment is to move Caribbean business forward.
The rebranding event was not only a corporate milestone, but also a cultural celebration reviving the Caribbean spirit that Flow has championed throughout its long-standing presence in the region. Mitchell framed the evening's theme as a reflection of Caribbean identity.
It's a celebration of who we are as Caribbean people. It's about how we move, how we live, and how we connect. It's in our walk and our talk as a team and a company. And from this evening, it will be in our technology, our service, and in our future.
The Let the Rhythm Flow rebranding launch signals a renewed vigor for Flow St. Kitts and Nevis, reaffirming its dedication to cutting-edge technology, superior service, vibrant community engagement, and an enduring partnership with the people of the Federation. This new era promises to not only amplify the rhythm of their customers' lives, but also the very heartbeat of St. Kitts and Nevis itself. In regional news, Guyana reconsidering hiring a plan for Cuban health workers, news source Guyana reports.
In wake of the U.S. government threatening sanctions against countries that make use of the Cuban labor export program, Vice President Barra Jagdeo revealed that the government of Guyana is now rethinking its plan to hire healthcare workers from Cuba. At the press conference, Mr. Jagdeo said the government will still be looking to bring professionals from Cuba, but under specific conditions. He said the government of Guyana will be looking at other countries as well to fill the labor shortage in the healthcare sector and other sectors.
But we're working to ensure that the people who come here from Cuba, that they meet the definition because of what the U.S. Secretary of State mentioned, that the conditions of work here don't run afoul of the requirements set by the United States of America. But we are recruiting from around the world.
Vice President Jagdeo said while the government has lots of countries it can seek healthcare workers from, the aim is to get many Guyanese as possible trained to work in the system.
The idea is to get our own people to work in the hospitals. So we are recruiting nursing assistants and a whole range of people to do that, to do the work. But right now, we don't have enough healthcare personnel to offer the expanded level of services that will come through the opening of these new hospitals. So we have to train more of our people. We have to increase their remuneration and working conditions.
Mr. Jagdeo maintains that there is a shortage in the healthcare system, and with the new hospitals coming on stream, that shortage is expected to grow. The vice president said while there may be concerns about bringing in foreign healthcare workers, the government will not allow the system to suffer due to the shortage of Guyanese healthcare professionals.
CDB president unveils bold plan to streamline operations and strengthen regional resilience. DBS St. Lucia has that story.
Caribbean Development Bank CDB President Daniel Best warns that with escalating geopolitical conflicts, unpredictable economic and trade policies, and deepening global fragmentation, the Caribbean must adapt with clarity, unity, and foresight. To this end, he announced at the 55th annual meeting of the Board of Governors of the CDB that the bank is undergoing a bold transformation of both structure and spirit, driven by the belief that clinging to outdated tools hinders progress in the face of new realities.
CDB leads with purpose by lighting the path to sustainable development with innovation, laying the foundation through transformation, and measuring success by how communities thrive. Consider, for instance, a coastal village in Dominica, where families live just meters from the sea. Their lives tied to fishing and farming. A single storm could erase everything. For them, climate change is a daily reality, deeply felt and relentless. So what stands between disaster and recovery? Resilient institutions, the very systems we are committed to building.
Best highlighted some of the bank's achievements last year. In 2024, he says despite fiscal tightening, inflation, and climate shocks, the bank approved over $303 million in new projects, deploying capital that was transformative and timely. Additionally, a €100 million water management and clean oceans framework loan from the European Investment Bank helped countries from Barbados to Belize upgrade infrastructure, protect ecosystems, and link water security to economic opportunity.
Yet we know that capital without capacity can fail to meet our development objectives. This is why we are tackling implementation bottlenecks head-on, partnering with ministries and agencies to strengthen procurement, project readiness, and delivery systems. And when crisis strikes, CDB responds without hesitation.
The bank is also expanding its Green Climate Fund accreditation from $50 million to $250 million. He says that the bank is tackling bottlenecks in implementation head-on by partnering with ministries and agencies to strengthen procurement, project readiness, and delivery systems. For the DBS News World, Miriam Montoot reporting.
We now bring you these international reports.
International Relations at Tehran University. He joins us from the Iranian capital. Given that long list of very high-profile Iranian figures, top brass within the military, within the Air Force, within the army that have been killed in this Israeli strike, I wonder to what extent the Iranian leadership is reeling in the wake of what it's experienced in the past 24 hours.
You know, we haven't seen anything like this in many, many years. Iran was in the middle of negotiations with the United States. If this had not happened, the Iranian foreign minister would be in Oman negotiating with the Americans to find a peaceful solution. And in the middle of negotiations, you have tens of people killed, not just the generals, but their families, their children, and Iranian sites are attacked. This is a full-fledged war. And there is a huge public opinion pressure on the government to hit and hit back hard. And Iran has no other choice. Iran didn't want to have a war, but the other side has given Iran no choice but to respond. And the response should be at a level to make sure that tonight the same thing doesn't happen again. So we are in a very sad situation. We are going to see a war, another war in this part of the
Sorry
world.
to interrupt. The response that we've seen so far is not at a level that would, as you say, discourage or dissuade Israel from doing anything again in the future. We've seen armed drones being sent in the direction of Israel. What do you anticipate is coming?
Yeah, I think that this is just the beginning. I think Iran's response is going to be much bigger than what you see. And I saw a report on Fox News, the Fox reporter quoting Trump, saying that he knew about the attack and he called some of the countries in this neighborhood and told them about the upcoming Israeli attack. And we know that there are bases, American bases, in the southern part of the Persian Gulf. We know that there are American bases in Iraq and other places. And it seems this is a joint American-Israeli venture. That's not good news for the United States.
So you suggest that it's almost inevitable now that that American installations, facilities are legitimate targets in the eyes of Iran?
Yes, Israeli planes cannot reach Iran and go back. They need refueling, and for that refueling, they need American refueling planes. So Iran did not want to have a military confrontation with the United States. But if Iran decides to attack American bases, they have very legitimate reasons to do that. If they decide to do it, they have legitimate reasons to do that. Why? Because Israelis cannot do this type of operations alone.
We've heard from President Masoud Pezeshkian, who sounded pretty earnest and concerned when he gave an address on Iranian television. He called for unity and the avoidance of disinformation at this current time. What did he mean by that? What levels of disinformation are the Iranian people facing in the wake of this attack on the country?
Iran has been experiencing a propaganda war by media outlets that are funded by Netanyahu. We have a couple of television stations that broadcast to Iran 24 hours a day. They call themselves news organizations, but they're not. They're engaging in propaganda. So that is one problem. The other issue that Dr. Pezeshkian talked about today is what in English you call a rally around the flag. So there is this sense of popular dislike and hatred of what has happened in Iran in the last number of hours. People are in the streets. People are demonstrating. This is creating unity in the country. And this is what Dr. Pezeshkian is saying, that this unity is valuable. People should not pay attention to propaganda that's coming from outside. And I think at the end of the day, this is going to be a very bad decision by the Israelis.
Right. You're saying that this attack has essentially strengthened Iranians' resolve rather than in any way weakened it.
US markets have opened lower after Israel's overnight attacks on Iran. All of the major indices are in the red. Meanwhile, oil prices have risen sharply in response, up around 8%, as investors fear a wider conflict could disrupt crucial supplies from the Middle East. Around a fifth of global oil production passes through the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway adjacent to Iran. Today's price swings mark the largest intraday moves for major oil contracts since 2022. That's when Russia's invasion of Ukraine sent energy prices soaring. For more on the price of oil and what it means, Gaurav Sharma, energy analyst at Oilholics Anonymous, joins us now. Good to see you, Gaurav, this morning. What is next, do you think, for the price of oil now?
I think where the oil market finds itself is in the precarious position of sort of peeking over the horizon, see what happens next. This kind of spike in prices is to be expected when an event of this magnitude transpires. It's a question of what happens next. The Iranians have retaliated. I think the Israelis are saying that this is a multi-day action that they're going to take. So if this escalates and somehow we reach a situation whereby which Iranian energy infrastructure is targeted, you will see a further spike of another 4 or 5% in the market. So we're kind of sort of peering over our shoulders, looking backwards, forwards. What is the direction of travel here in terms of what Tehran and Mr. Netanyahu do?
And where does this leave Saudi Arabia?
I think Saudi Arabia has the position of sort of sitting and observing what's going on. It's already upping the stakes via OPEC in terms of bringing more oil back to the market. it's also cognizant of the fact that had this skirmish, had this level of hostilities, let's say transpired, say, sort of 10 years ago, the situation would have been very different, Michelle, because right now we have a lot of non-OPEC, non-Middle Eastern oil out in the market from Brazil, from Canada, from Guyana, from Norway, and especially the United States. So the Saudis are sort of the buffer producers of the world. They're observing the situation and they will be reactive to what happens next.
I like that, the buffer producers. Meanwhile, I want to ask you about some customers. China and Russia, they are notable buyers of Iranian oil. How do you think this leaves them? What do they do next?
At the moment, I think, we are looking at whether the Israelis decide to go for any Iranian energy infrastructure. If, let's say, the skirmish results in some damage to the Karg oil terminal in Iran, then China would be directly impacted because over the last couple of years, more and more so, China has been turning to Iran for discounted, sanction-ridden crude. So were those facilities to be attacked by Israel, the game changes. We could see a wider spike. But right now, there's a fair amount of oil in the market, and that's basically keeping a lid on prices, which could have overshot even more than we've seen today.
Gaurav Sharma, energy analyst at Oilholics Anonymous, thank you very much for joining us. Now, while oil prices are up, stocks around the world are down as businesses brace for the fallout. This morning, global airline stocks are tumbling as Israel's wide-scale strikes prompted carriers to clear out the airspace of Israel, Iran, Iraq and Jordan. Travel and leisure stocks are also falling as Iran's retaliation raises fears of oil supply disruptions, as we were just talking about. So the question is, what does this mean for the global economy? Well, to discuss this, I'm joined by Tali Leisure, Chief Market Strategist at the Wealth Consulting Group. Good to see you this morning. Look, given fears that this action could lead to a protracted conflict, what do you think this does to global growth?
So when the news broke out, Michelle, I immediately thought of that famous quote from Benjamin Franklin. There never was a good war or a bad peace, especially from a humanitarian perspective. But for markets and investors, I think what this means historically is, yes, geopolitical conflict like this can present challenges to risk assets like stocks in the very near term, but longer term, and that's our investment horizon, I think it tends to open up some compelling buying opportunities for patient investors like ourselves.
Okay, some opportunities, but what about when it comes to prices? Obviously, we're talking about the oil price going up today. It is a key input in so many manufactured goods. What could that do down the road to inflation?
So I think it depends where you sit in the world. And from my seat here in New Jersey, United States, we've got an administration and a president with a policy of drill, baby, drill. And I think generally it's important for investors to keep in mind the mismatch between supply and demand. We generally got the case of too much supply and not enough demand. And that might be the case globally. So as an investor, if you weren't already positioned in energy stocks and oil before the U.S. started evacuating workers from the embassies in that area, it might be getting a little late to play that tactical bounce.
And briefly, what does this mean for the Federal Reserve? I mean, increasing tensions geopolitically, surely that complicates their job.
I think it does. And to your point, we'll be watching the tone on the incoming inflation reports. They have not been a problem over the past several months. So if this continues, this trend, then I think it does. Eventually, over time, this helps bring the Fed, I think, back into the game off the sidelines in an effort to save growth and jobs.
For the past 3 weeks, an American company run by former US soldiers and officials has been airdropping hundreds of tons of maize flour, beans and salt into South Sudan, one of the world's most desperate pockets of hunger. South Sudan's government says it is funding the campaign, which comes in the wake of US President Donald Trump's dismantling of USAID and wider aid budget cuts. Fogbo says it now has 5 project requests in conflict zones in both Africa and the Middle East. But many aid sector veterans see the rising demand for its services as part of a shift towards a more politicised aid model and argue such firms sacrifice humanitarian principles like neutrality and credibility. Here's Fogbo's president, Mick Mulroy.
We have a lot of experience in conflict zones, the team does, and we try to use those experience to add to the humanitarian efforts that are already going around the world.
A US and Israeli-backed outfit that's distributing food in Gaza has shone the spotlight on the shift to private aid services. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or the GHF, has bypassed the UN, which accuses it of running militarized distribution zones. Scores of Palestinians have died in shootings near the sites. Fogbo first distributed food last year in Gaza, but says it has no connection to the GHF. Its operation in South Sudan is raising similar questions because it is working directly on behalf of a party in an active conflict. The aid comes in sacks emblazoned with the national flag, and some people have refused the food because they don't trust the government, whose forces are bombing parts of Upper Nile. That's according to 2 residents, opposition politicians, and a UN source. The opposition, the SPLM-IO, has accused the military in those areas of coercing displaced civilians to return home to collect the food. Joel Ajongo, the Minister of Presidential Affairs, denied the coercion, but said the drops into Nasir County were intended to encourage people to return and show it could provide for them.
So there are places in Upper Nile, Upper Nile area, the jungle area, that the government doesn't have access to. They're making their collections, generating tax, government commissioners are just away. So there is a need for us, in order for you to claim the legitimacy and the representation of the people of South Sudan, you must have presence in all those places.
Although the UN's World Food Programme has plans to distribute over 176,000 US tons of food in South Sudan this year, it said no aid was getting in. South Sudan's government said it had asked Fogbo, rather than WFP, to expedite the rollout and show it was taking responsibility for its citizens.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were: St. Kitts and Nevis observes Environment Month with renewed commitment to sustainability.
St. Kitts and Nevis strengthens ties with Africa through the Afro-Caribbean Cultural Exchange Initiative.
Lithium-ion battery explosion at ECCB campus contained, investigation underway. Let the rhythm flow, a new era for telecom in St. Kitts and Nevis. Guyana reconsidering hiring a plan for Cuban health workers. CDB president unveils bold plan to streamline operations and strengthen regional resilience. Internationally, Israeli strikes have made war inevitable. Thank you for listening.